Years ago, back in the day, uh, I got my first puppy, Annie, Border Collie, 1/4 Kelpie, and she trained up really, really nice. And I knew how to work her. I was learning at the same time. We learned together, my dog and I. I had a professional trainer that happened to live next door to me. And so he had clinics every week. And so I always went up there every week and trained my puppy. And I learned a lot. And then she was fully trained, eventually, and a young dog. And she was helping me a lot on the farm. But every time we did pen work, I had trouble. And I always thought it was my dog's fault. And what was happening is she's great on her fetches and outruns and all that. But when we would do pen work, I had trouble getting the livestock into the pen that I wanted them to go to, or in the chutes or alleys. And I would get so frustrated. And you're not supposed to be frustrated when you're working livestock or working your dog. You're supposed to have a nice, quiet work. And my works weren't quiet because I was frustrated and upset. Well, just coincidentally, about that time that I was having all this trouble, I was taking college courses on livestock production. And this was totally coincidence. I didn't seek this particular class out to learn how to work my dog because it had really nothing to do about working stock dogs. It had everything to do with low stress cattle work. And so it was called pressure and release. And we learned all the pressure points of the cow. We did all the lectures in the classroom. And then to finish the class, in order to pass the class, we went up to our ag professor's ranch. He had a beautiful covered arena, and he put us, each student one at a time, put us out there. So I had to go out in the arena with my hands in my pocket and work one cow. And I had to influence that cow. That's an important word, influence. I had to influence that cow to go where I wanted it to go. And I had that aha moment. I realized, my poor dog, I've been putting too much pressure on the livestock, and my poor little dog's working her heart out, but I'm not in the right position to help my dog. And so I was hindering my dog instead of helping my dog. I was putting the livestock over top of her practically, and she was working her hardest to get those. She knew what job we had to finish. She knew they had to go into the pen, but I was in the wrong position. And so it was handler error that was the problem. And that was my aha moment. And that's why today I want to teach you this lesson. It's just going to be a short, brief lesson. My class was a semester long, but it also covered developing your processing areas and corrals. But anyway, that was the best class I ever took. And then recently, Chantel told me that the most important lesson that I taught her was the pressure and release lesson. Low stress, pressure and release. You got to know where those pressure points are on your cow. Got to know how to read the cow and be able to influence that cow or those cattle or those sheep or those goats to go where you want them to go. Works the same on all herding animals. Today we'll be working with cattle. And so I'm going to give you a quick lesson. I drew it out on a whiteboard. I'm going to show that to you so you can understand where the pressure points are on your cattle. I'll just do a quick explanation, about 5 minutes. And then we're going to go out to the arena with Chantel and her dog Jack. And we're going to put it into practice and show you what I'm talking about. And hopefully this helps you out. And it was my aha moment when I learned it. It was Chantel's aha moment when she learned it. And your livestock handling will be so much more stress-free when you know these pressure points and how to influence. Really important word, influence the livestock to go where you want them to go. with or without your dog. And hope you enjoy the video. Thanks. I made a kind of a crude little drawing here. This is my cow. He's standing, this whole board represents the pasture he's in. And the whole point of working on livestock is to have low stress and keeping the animal calm. So using pressure and release methods is equivalent to kind of like an act of persuasion. So in other words, we're calmly influencing the livestock to move where we want them to move. So here's your word for the day, and it's influence. We want to influence the cow to go where we want them to go. So in other words, we're making the cattle feel like it's their idea to go where we actually wanted them to go. So we're going to be quiet in our work, and we're going to be calm, and we're going to use low stress. So in order to accomplish that, we need to understand the herd animal. So I've made this little drawing, and it's the same not just for cattle, but for all herd animals, sheep, goats. The same principle applies. So here's our cow in the middle, and here's another term to know, flight zone. Every herding animal has a flight zone, and it could be all different sizes. It could be really small, or it could be huge. It just depends on how often that animal has been handled and how tame it is. So this is about the average right here. And so we're going to have to know where this flight zone is, because that's a pressure point. So the other term to know is point of balance. I hope you can see this okay. The point of balance on your herding animal is the shoulder. So this says shoulder here. So the shoulder is their point of balance, kind of like their center of gravity. I kind of refer to it sometimes. Anyway, that's their point of balance. So in order to know, the first thing we need to know is their flight zone, where it is. So if you're walking up to it, because obviously there's no drawing around your cow out there in the pasture. So if you walk up to your cow and he's out in the pasture and he's grazing, or he's kind of, if you're out here, he's kind of ignoring you. So if you walk up to this line, anywhere on this line, and you step on it, you'll know right where it is, because he's going to lift up his head and he's going to look at you. He's going to acknowledge you. Then if you go a step in, now you're in his personal space, in his bubble, and he's going to walk away from you. So that's how you find out where the flight zone is. In fact, I'm going to cut away here from this and show you what I mean. Yesterday we were working cows, and I had Chantel show us how to find the flight zone. So I'll cut that in right here.
So this is an interesting dynamic I have here. This cow is used to having me be around her and being worked. She's familiar with the dog, she's familiar with me. Her flight zone is going to be a lot closer. This calf I've never worked before, so you'll be interesting to see how close their flight zones are. I'm just going to bring him back. Yes, so the flight zone is how close you get before they feel the pressure, before they feel the need to move away from you. So right here, I'm right on the edge of the flight zone. If I take one or two steps, see, he moved. I just went into his flight zone to get him to move. You don't have to be right on top of him. Each cow's flight zone is totally different, depending on how familiar they are with the handler, if they're range cows, their flight zones could be a half a mile practically. It all depends on the cow. Come here, Jack.
Okay, now that you understand the flight zone and you know how to find it, now you need to understand the cow and all of his pressure points. So, point of balance is the shoulder. If you stand here the cow's just going to stand still. If you go back here, kind of at an angle to their shoulder, they're going to walk forward. So you're going to have to step on the flight zone, and he'll start moving, and then you kind of keep that pressure on them as they're moving, just on the flight zone, if you just want them to walk forward. Sometimes to slow them down, you got to step out and then back on, pressure and release, okay? Then if you want the cow to stop, you would get ahead and get right lined up with the shoulder, and now the cow's going to stop. And if you want the cow to walk away from you, kind of go ahead, and the further you get ahead and you walk into his pressure area, he's going to turn away from you, and you can turn him around. Now it's important to remember all this area here, they can see you. So that's why this is their center of gravity, is because their eyes are on the side of their head, and this is where they can see you the best. And so they can still see you here, and you're at that angle and you're just kind of pushing them forward. But if you're directly behind them, they cannot see you, so they're in a blind spot. And you don't want to be in their blind spot because they're going to become nervous and afraid because you're in their blind spot, and they can't see you back there. So it's important to stay out where they can see you. When you see a dog working, they wear back and forth. That's why they're keeping the cattle in a group, and they're staying where they can be seen while driving them. Anyway, those are the pressure points. Word of the day, influence. So you step in, step out to keep them moving. You can change their direction, you can stop them, you can turn them. All by knowing where their pressure points are. And by knowing these, all these terms and knowing where these pressure points are, you can control that cow in a very calm manner. Even if, whether you have one or a whole group of them, the principle is the same. I kind of choose the lead cow and guide them that way. While I kind of work with my dog. My dog will go back and forth back here, driving them, while I just keep the pressure on them and keep them going in the direction I want them to go. And it's important not to keep constant pressure. You got to release some of that pressure to keep the flow going. So you step in, step out, step in, step out, and just keep that pressure going, or the calmness going. So it's all about your positioning to calmly influence the cattle to go where you want them to go. And remember, remember that blind spot behind them. And a good thing to remember is the cow is going to go the direction that their head is facing. So if you've got a pin here, and you want them to enter that pin, if their head is facing away from the entrance to the pin in any direction, that's the way they're going to go, because they're planning their escape, because they're not going to want to go into that pin. So give them a minute to see the opening, reposition yourself so that their head is facing the opening of the pin, and then just let them think about it, let them see the opening, and then just slightly give a little more pressure and release, pressure and release, to get them into that pin. Anyway, that's the trick to it. And so now let's take you out to the arena, and we'll show you how this works.
So we're going to be in this arena, and I'm going to be showing you the flight zones and where that pressure and release is, and where you can stand at their shoulder. Their shoulder is their balance point. So when you just take a couple of steps back, you're driving them. A couple of steps above, or a step above their balance point at their shoulder, you push them away. So you'll see that, and I'll try to explain it as I go. So right here, I'm getting really close to being inside their flight zone. Right about here. I just stepped into their flight zone and caused them to move. So right here I'm stepping in front of her head to get her to turn. There we go. And I'm just going to take one more step. She's more docile. I've worked with her a lot. She's been worked on the cow with the dog a lot. So she's not scared. Her flight zone is a lot smaller than most cows. So see how I'm staying right here at an angle to them? She can see me. If I was to stand directly behind her, they can't see directly behind themselves. So then if I was to suddenly pop out, it could scare them. So you just try to stay within their line of sight. See this calf? I'm going to walk up. Now I'm just past his shoulder and it caused him to turn. So it's like dancing. I'm in their flight zone, outside their flight zone, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. So right here, I'm just going to drive them around, and I'm coming at an angle so they can see me. You don't ever want to walk up directly behind a cow. That's why a dog wears. They go back and forth so they can be seen. My arena is a little muddy from our rain that we had the other day. So I'm just going to get just a little bit behind her shoulder, and it caused her to go forward. If I was to have stepped this way, it would have made her turn. So this is something that if you don't feel super comfortable with, like he's letting me get real close. And I want him to turn. So I'm at his shoulder. Now I'm just past his shoulder. See how he's moving away from me? Now I'm going to go back and drive him up. It's so critically important as a handler to know your livestock, where you need to be. I don't know how many times before I figured this out that I would drive my cows on top of my dog and get upset with my dog thinking he wasn't doing his job when I was just running the cows over him, or making it where it was really hard for him to move them. So I'm going to get on this side. So I'm right on the edge of that flight zone. She's really watchy. And now I'm going to step into her flight zone. And I'm going right at her shoulder, and it's pushing her away. I'm staying kind of up. Now I'm going to come back and move this calf. Right at his shoulder, I'm directly looking into his shoulder. So now I'm going to try to move him away. They want to be with the other cows. I'll just drive him back up. Once you understand this principle of where their flight zone is, where their pressure point is, their balance point, right at the shoulder, right here, it helps so much. You can do horseback, helps, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be on a four-wheeler, a motorbike. As long as you know where that balance point is, you can work cows a lot smoother and quieter. You're not stressing them out, running them and turning them constantly. So I'm just going to get up to this calf. So here's his balance point. I'm stepping ahead of it because I'm turning it. If I was to walk straight up past his head, there we go, he's walking with me. If I was to walk straight up past his head and then at him, he's going to turn that way. Because now I'm coming at his shoulder over here. Oh, I turned. It's a dance. Here we go. I'm coming at his shoulder this way. There we go. So if you can always visualize, their shoulders are like the gas pedal. If you're right at them, it's the brake. If I'm wanting to drive her, I'm going to take a step behind her shoulder. So I'm just going to stay at this angle and I'm pushing on the gas pedal. If I was to zoom up, I'm stopping her. Take a step back and in, and I'm driving her. I come up, I'm stopping her. A step forward and I'm going to turn her. There you go. So I strongly suggest if you have cows, even sheep. Sheep is a little bit more difficult just because they are so flighty, but it does the same exact concept. Their shoulder is the driving point. Horses, their shoulders are the driving point, the balance point. That's your gas pedal. I'm turning her. And now I'm just driving her. I'm pushing on the gas pedal. There we go. My goal is to get her over to that calf. There we go. Now I'm going to turn both of them. I'm right here. I'm driving. And I want to keep them on that side, so I'm driving on this side of their shoulders. Can't get too far up or I would be hitting the brakes. Like this, I went too far behind, above the steer. So now I'm going to add my dog. So you can see how I will influence the cows as well as my dog. Here, Jack. Away. Down. Down. So right now we're just driving him. If I was to walk him up, walk up. Hold, hold, hold. He was driving. Now I have him staying, so I'm going to help him by influencing the mama to turn her head. He's holding her against the fence, and now I'm driving. I'm turning her head. There we go. Walk up. Here. I just helped my dog. Hold. Here, 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 here. See, he's really excited to work right now. He's way too close in her flight zone for her to be comfortable. And some dogs are. Some dogs can keep that real big flight zone. So I'm going to try to illustrate how you can hurt your dog. Not that I'm actually going to hurt my dog, but like hinder your dog. So I'm getting past their drive point, their balance point. I'm now driving. And I say I need them to get to a certain spot, but I don't want them to go past. So my dog is holding. He's actually putting pressure on the cows. They're hesitating. He's in front of their drive line, so they're like, we don't want to go anywhere. But I'm driving because I wish I had an obstacle here. Say I need to get them in this obstacle. I'm driving. Now, that yellow calf is right where I want him to be. That white calf is right where I want him to be. I'm going to back up and take the pressure off. He's holding pressure. I'm holding pressure. If I needed those calves to move just a couple of feet, I don't go running in there because my dog can't hold them. See, I'm pushing, 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 pushing. I should have stopped way back there. Away. Hold. Hold. Now, I need to help my dog and come out. Hold. Just like when you're working your dog and you need your dog to down so it takes the pressure off, you as a handler need to be able to stop so it takes the pressure off. A lot of times we just think, oh, we need to try to help them, and we're just putting too much pressure on the cows, and then the dog cannot maintain what we're asking them to maintain. Hold. So for here, I'm going to try to funnel them out. I'm going to come up and around. The more you do this, you not only help your dog, but it also helps you know where to place your dog. Okay, he's putting pretty good amount of pressure on her. Turn. There you go. Walk up. Hold. See how he's just instinctively keeping that angle so that cow will see him? Walk up. Hold. 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 Down. Down. Away. 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 There you go. Now is a come by. Hold. 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 Jack down. That'll do. That'll do. Come. Good boy. So I hope that was clear enough for you to visualize. There's a circle around just about every livestock. Well, I've worked my dog on pigs when they've escaped. The concept is the same. Doesn't matter if it's horses, cows, pigs, goats. It's all the same. They all have that flight zone. And it's like a dance, finding out where, if you step one step in, is it going to make a move? One step, two steps out takes the pressure off and they're going to stop. It helps so much for you to know that, and then you instinctively know where to even place your dog that much better. And you're less likely to have wrecks. You're not going to be hurting your dog. You're not going to hurt yourself if you know where to place your dog and yourself. I hope this helps, and I hope you have fun working your own livestock.